I'm Brandon Richards, and this is From Collieries to Couture, a podcast exploring heritage, style, and identity. And for our first episode of today, I am joined by Tony Rivers, co-author of Magnetic, story of Italian designer Massimo Ossi's early years in the UK, menswear enthusiast, in collaboration now with Cambrensis, with the Italian-Welsh heritage brand and tribute, Genoa. I'm also joined by Dave Jones, Welsh, South Wales, DJ icon, and of course, menswear enthusiast as well.
You okay?
How are we
Thank
today?
you, Brandon.
Yeah.
How are we today? Of course,
Good
lads,
morning.
you wrote a book together, Soul Crew.
We did.
Yeah.
And aside for the main subject matter, there was also a lot touched on with menswear trends and musical tastes. How important was that for you to touch on?
Well, basically, it was the first book that focused on not just the trouble that was going on the terraces. It was a subculture which ran with that culture, which was clothing and music.
Yeah, growing up, we wanted to, there was, like Dave said, there was a few other hooligan literature, culture books that were already out, but we wanted to write something for everyone really, especially the dressers and the early casuals, which not much had been focused on them. So yeah, I think we tried it our way, and I think it worked over the years, and people appreciated what we did.
You mentioned growing up. Can you recall when you both first met?
I do.
We were raving, wasn't it?
Yeah, well,
Before it was
ironically,
football, was it?
I think it was in Swansea, right, about 89. House music was just starting to come to the fore in South Wales, and Merthyr and Swansea, they had these hip-hop nights, and there was a Merthyr DJ called Jeff Thomas,
Yeah.
and he had a Monday night.
He did.
In Martha's.
Yeah.
In Martha's. I remember speaking.
Great club.
Yeah, I remember speaking to Dave about Cardiff, Liverpool, clothes. Yeah, we became best of mates ever since.
Yeah.
But it was a time where, because Ray was just coming in, it was safe for us to go to Swansea. Yeah,
It was the first time in 8 years I was allowed to go to Swansea, because I used to go clubbing in Swansea in the early
Okay.
80s, watching Jeff at certain clubs like Harper's and Martha's Vineyard, and then all the football fashion came in, and you're Cardiff,
Not happening.
Yeah.
you're not having a
happening.
past, so and that was it for 7 years, and then raving came along, ecstasy culture, everyone was your mate, so it was
Yeah.
cool then.
I think it was about a year later that.
Which was,
Sorry, I think it was about a year later you started.
well, we did, yeah.
Residency in Dark Arch in
Dark Arch 89,
Yeah, yeah.
89, yeah.
And that was some of the
And
first
you
house
used to
shows.
support that, didn't it?
Yeah,
All
we
the
used to
Abigail
come
lot
down.
used to come down on the Thursday night.
There was an
And
indie night one Thursday, and there was house the
It was house.
following Thursday.
Yeah, it was
wasn't
every other week, yeah.
Of course, it works so simultaneously, doesn't it, with the culture? And even now, to you, Dave,
Certainly does.
you, of course, creator of Space Lab House Music Podcast.
Well, yeah,
Is that
we
derived
did
from there?
Yeah, we did the podcast first, and now we're running nights off the podcast. We got a Facebook group, we do radio as well, and yeah, it's all kind of keeping it ticking over. We're current with music, we play a lot of old stuff, but we focus a lot on the new and the up and coming.
But how much of that work does derive from that small time period of when it really come about,
It all
become part of the culture?
Yeah, it all came. A lot of it came from that. It was as important to us about the clothes and the music and the football. It was 33 and a third.
Do you think that's why it was so digestible? And even now, you see that influence on the culture, and it still stands today. If anything, stands maybe even stronger.
Definitely comes from them.
Well, you think about it, when we started out, the trainer phenomena has come from what we were doing at the beginning, and that is a global enterprise. It's one of the leading exports for a lot of countries. Like Nike in America is one of the biggest trading companies, and Adidas out of Germany in the 80s, you know, and it's evolved into this high street global phenomenon.
Just to touch back on the book, of course, Soul Crew, which you both wrote and co-authored. How was that in the process of writing a book together? Of course, you mentioned the important subject matters that had to be across, but how important was it also to display the culture and, again, the effect of the culture, like you just mentioned?
Oh, 100%. Dave mentions about the trainer phenomenon now, which obviously has been booming for decades, but early 80s, probably Dave, I would say, was one of the few that were, you know, that was going around the country looking for that rare pair of trainers. Called vintage now, obviously, but at the time, you know, they were still.
We would go to Europe. There was Persil like washing powder. Did a special deal to Europe. You can collect all the tokens. It was two of you could go for £25 each to 6 destinations around Europe, Munich. It was like Holland, Germany, all the rest. And
that's where Transalpino came from.
And that's it did. It came from that culture from 1980-81, where we could go to Europe, and my mate Gareth and myself were going on a Monday to Europe, buying all the rare colourways, coming back on a Wednesday, Thursday, selling them down to football, and going again the week after. And then we cottoned on that obviously Southern Ireland. Was part of Europe, so we were going over to Dublin for a tenner from Neath to Rosslare, and then train up to Dublin, and we were in Dublin bringing all of the Lacoste back, which was green trim trams, which you couldn't, Adidas trim tram, which were like the holy grail of trainer at that time.
And of course, you both were a part of the iconic casual era, and of course, you just mentioned of all the years of coming. When did it really start for you guys, though?
Personally, I was a little bit later than Dave, but I was about 12, 13, really interested in the sportswear. We had a little breakdance crew, not very good, but, but you know, you get to go to different places around South Wales and seeing these boys who were, you know, all kindred spirits, all with the same hobby as you. And like the sportswear thing that was early 80s, it was still prominent in the football, but it was also mirrored in the b-boy world. You know, lovely wicked sportswear trainers, and that was my first. That was my first venture into that side of things, and the football casual world for me, probably I started to notice things about 85. Then by 86, we knew then there was this different dress code. Boys I was in school with, boys who went to another school, Cardinal Newman. I went down there when I was like in Form 4 or 5. And that was when I was introduced to all these top dressers, and these were kids like 14, 15.
Would you say 85, 86 is when it started to spread into that mass look?
Yeah, I would say so. On the UK terraces, that it was
prevalent.
Going for a while before that, but that was my first journey into it. But I was still only 12, 13, you know, so you know, it took me a while to catch on. Like the other day, we were talking about Linus Scott Pringle, some of the early golf where, like Dave, I remember he was Pringle to 82, Dave,
my first Pringle 82, I kind of got into it in 1980, going to Derby on a train, and there was a couple of lads from South Wales who watched other clubs like Liverpool, Man U, Everton, Villa, and they were all dressed different to us because we were still in that kind of rude boy mod kind of thing, and they were like, they had like, their hair was different, they had like flick wedge haircuts, and they had Italian sportswear, and I kind of got to know them, and they were the catalyst for me. They were the innovators in South Wales by following the first division clubs. So they brought that back, and then we were the first Cardiff lads. A couple of us were the first Cardiff lads who caught onto it, and then the Pringle knitwear, Italian feeler to Sergio Tacchini, Alessi. was massive in, and Lacoste 82,
Yeah.
83 was, and then 84, there was the backlash to it, and the country was split, so it was regionalised, so it was like still under that flagship, this casual thing, but the North were more like in suede and tweed, and
The dressing
a
down.
counterculture. There was a counterculture to it, Marks and Spencers, and they were like regressing to that scene. London was going more flash with Armani and the Gucci, and they were getting more and more. This is it's more expensive. Whereas the North was like where I think it started in the Northwest especially. They were like, no, it's a backlash to this. We're not. We're moving on from this. So 84 was a pinnacle year for it because it got out of hand. I was on New Street Station 1 and there was 5 different mobs. Instead of trying to tear into each other, everyone was looking what everyone else had on. Pringle jumpers. If you had a diamond Pringle jumper on, you were from London or the South. If you had the plain ones, your northern teams, and it was like you could, although they didn't have scarves and rattles and all that, you could identify them with what they had on. And Scousers and the Manx, all their trim traps would be dirty because it's like, well, we've had them longer than you. Whereas like the London would be all pristine and looking really nice. No, we've had ours longer. It was all one. It was all one upmanship.
Do you feel like it was added to the element of tribalism? It was just feeding into that.
I think it was a backlash to Thatcherism.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. It was like, we can dress, we can be smart, we can do this, we can be entrepreneurs, but in a little bit of a different way, like
working class
lads making good.
You mentioned then about all the different styles in all different parts of the country and on the island. Where do you think Cardiff or South Wales fell in that?
Cardiff,
they were London-esque.
Was it London-esque?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There was a few of us weren't. Few of us we wanted to be different.
Yeah.
We were northwest.
Okay, really?
100%. There was about 10 of us.
What Dave mentions there about the Cardiff lads who used to go and watch First Division teams. There was a couple of kids from the Ronda who used to go and watch. Yeah, we used to go and watch Everton, and there was Cardiff lads who used to go to Spurs. Villa.
John, Julian and Donald were the 3 innovators of the scene throughout the United Kingdom. They were Julian was one of the first ever into it, and he's from Annecia in the Ronda, and they were the catalysts, and they brought it to South Wales, and then obviously there was a big Tottenham firm from South Wales. Who were very influential especially on us because we were a little bit younger and we were like, we looked up to them, no doubt about it.
A lot of them Cardiff Tottenham lads from Ely, and there's been some great photos lately about the Ely youth at the time.
The Millbank crew.
Rob Morley and
Marlow. Very smart.
All in 82 and they were only like 15, 16, but Armani, Lacoste, and this was,
Yeah, they were really well turned out. Mikey died, God rest his soul. He was like one of the first down there.
But these are the people all around the country. They all had their own inspirations. We spoke about it in the book, but probably most clubs in the country had a mob of such. Some big, some small, but there was only probably a small percentage of dressers who were obsessed with it, really, weren't they?
Yeah, there was certain crews had big dressing firms. Some, like Arsenal, were always reputed as being the best because they were always kind of pushing it and trying to be a bit diverse in what they were wearing. They were always ahead. Like if you're wearing Burberry, but they were wearing Dries Van Noten, in 1984, and they're like laughing at you. And it was a lot of that. It was a lot of like, you still wearing that?
Yeah, that's what you said.
And it was like you still wearing, trainers, and they were wearing Revell shoes and brogues and barbers and slick back hair, and we would still have wedges, and they'd be like,
we
Portsmouth, Liverpool.
Portsmouth came to Cardiff. I wrote about it in Magnetic in Friendly in 1990, and they were always you go on any casual site now, and there's a lot of good old photos of Portsmouth in casual wear. But I only identified Portsmouth late 80s, then 1990. I came in Indian Park for Friendly, and it was all like Bonneville, C.P. company, still with long hair from the Acid House era. But you could tell they were ahead of the game.
And it was an affluent area, Hampshire, Dorset, so they had dough, and they were very London centric. Portsmouth. They came to us in '84. Cracking story. It's well known amongst the fraternity of the old football lads. They came and outfoxed the police by telling the police they were coming to a wedding. They all had aquascutum blazers, aquascutum ties on white shirts, Farrah Slack shoes.
They had invites. The police had to have a look at the invites. So
they made up an invite. It's just like it was like a cat and mouse going on with the police then as well, out to actually get, if you met as a firm and had the row, you beat the police because you beaten police intelligence. Yeah. So obviously as the 80s, after post Isle Stadium, post 84, 85, which was probably the worst year for violence at football matches. The Thatcher said, we've had enough of this. We got to clamp down. So there was a lot of dawn rage from the bigger profile firms, which were West Ham, Chelsea. I think did Millwall get raided? I can't remember. Yeah. They all got raided.
Birmingham.
Went to the Old Bailey. All right, the cases collapsed because of the evidence, but it was a turning point. And then ecstasy culture came in around about 87, 88. And they was like, well, we want to make money now. We're sick of fighting now. We want to make some money, proper money, and that's it. Kind of naturally. A lot of the DJs, the big name DJs, I won't mention them on here, but a lot of those big name DJs were old football lads in the 80s, like the big, well known DJs.
Yeah. In regards to fashion and menswear at the time, that's what sides like West Ham. They want to dress up smart. They'd want to go on in the first class areas of the trains, wouldn't they? But
go in the seats in the ground in the nice seats instead of standing on the terraces freezing cold. They go in the seats.
I remember
it's all about
changed. It shifted.
The newspapers were clocking on. I remember it was mid-80s, like News of the World and that. They'd have your design. These are the new hooligans, the designer hooligans. You don't recognise them anymore because they're that smart and they're wearing £300 jackets and
which moves on nicely to 1987, 88 and the birth of Acid House, and then it flipped again and everyone was wearing dungarees and wearing loud clothing, naff, chavin, it was, all those labels were
very colourful,
chippy, and it went very colourful. And Kickers, which was a brand from a Dutch brand, wasn't it? Kickers from the 70s. Came back in again for football, and then he was like bright coloured, and
Yeah, nothing to do with the narcotics that was going on.
Probably.
He kind of went out there, and so basically, lads were going to football with dungarees, smiley t-shirts. Yeah. But some of the lads were like, "No, we're not feeling this.
We're not going it."
So it was still a bit like ecstasy culture was very taboo at football. With a lot of the football lads
involved in it.
Up until like the early 90s, 88, 89, you were going,
because that's what I was going to ask, is when do you feel like that part of that culture went into a new age then, and it moved on then? Would you say mid-90s or maybe even late 90s?
It kept evolving. I think it hit the buffers in the 90s, and it didn't go on. It was changing up until about 94, 95.
I remember one season. I think it was 88. Cardiff got promoted, and everybody, a load of boys went to Burnley last game of the season. They were rugby jerseys, blazers, cords. But then by the start of the new season, the same guys were turning up with jogging bottoms or multicoloured jogging bottoms. That's how much things changed during that summer, wasn't it?
Summer of '88, yeah.
So by the time we got to 95, again, like you said, it hit the buff. So really by then, was everything just being recycled in that way? It was just stuff of bits and pieces getting picked out.
It's like what we talked about in the book, mid-90s, Massimo Ossi's brands like Stone Island and C.P company, it was a mass.
Yeah, it took over. It was
a mass look.
Yeah.
Like Armani for the proper lads, I'd say late 80s through to like 90. By 91, it was pretty much finished, wasn't it, Armani? People were still wearing it, but it didn't have the same impact.
It was like that. The culture had moved again from dressing with really expensive clothing to like, well, no, as long as we got enough money in our pockets to go raving. Like the rave thing took over the country.
Which changed the fashion.
Predominantly
The
took over. The culture changed. It shifted. And you got the youngsters coming through now, but it's uniform. They're all copying each other. There's no individuality about it, you know?
Yeah, they didn't get a buzz pre-internet. It was a buzz finding out about a new jacket or a new pair of trainers. You'd have to travel.
You have to be in the know.
Yeah, you'd have to travel. But now, I see now the last 20 years since the advent of the internet and social media, it's all quite easy accessible.
And is that why you see now where almost people going out like in uniform, dressed in the same way?
Well,
and that individuality at the football culture,
at football, but in other cultures, you know, in fairness, I think Oi Polloi had a lot to do with the shop in Manchester, where it kind of brought back that early ethos to it, and people were starting to wear other brands, and then the kids were, so the new generation was, you know, they got their own styles. And again now it's kind of coming back again, where though that period of 10, 12, 15 years was a real, you know, it was indulgent. Now, football, I think the football lads, the youngsters haven't really progressed, but youth in general, there's lots, you know, the styles are coming back. There's lots of little subcultures coming back.
100%. I think that's been going on for a while. You look on, you look on Facebook and things like that. All these pages probably originated from Poland, Russia, and it's just reminiscing about football lads from 30, 40 years ago with the photos. That's kind of, you know, it's stagnated, like what Dave said about people. There's not much originality. But on the flip side, you can go on somewhere like Instagram and you can see so many different original pages, and you know, a lot of old lads our age and younger who, you know, were still really interested in dressing well. And that's, you know, like,
it's become a cult. It's become a cult.
I think that's one thing again with the young lads and the younger generation that's coming through now, is that period which we were alluding to was so influential and was almost like a golden era, such a point where people almost look up to it like a magic time.
After Punk,
I think so.
I think
Punk
so.
started it.
Yeah.
Punk started it. They all tore up the rule book. Punk, the football look, acid house. Within that 10 years, it was a revolution.
And I think that's what's all based off today. Would you guys agree with that? Would you say that period is now like almost the standard and what it's based off, and almost the ethos of the cult that we're talking about?
Exactly. 60s was a hippie thing, and like the 70s, 80s, it is influenced so much. And we, you know, I'm eternally grateful to have been a little bit of that jigsaw.
Yeah, of course.
That's the mass look, but like as Dave said, there's other subcultures that have been going on quite a while, like, you know, like the Japanese workwear and Americano and things like that.
Well, yeah, it's the Italian stuff. Well, you know, I certainly believe, especially with, like, I think with men especially, they get to a certain age and give up on themselves and the way they look. And this is really sad, you know, and, you know, they should, you know, the older gents, you know, I think, you know, a lot of them are just like, oh, well, I'll just
passing on the torch.
But, you know, they should be back, you know, still for their own self-esteem.
100%. To just digress a bit, lads, and to look back to South Wales and Cardiff, just you on a personal, how much does South Wales and Cardiff mean to you, especially being part of the Europe, being a part of that big jigsaw?
I'm passionate. I'm passionate. You know, I was born in Luton, but my grandfather played for the club, so I'm just passionately, massively passionate about South Wales and politics and and football and everything about the place. You know, it's so.
I think the city centre, is still thriving, but it was the dearly departed Andrew Weatherall who said, once you're at 30, your city centre isn't yours anymore. And I was totally spot on, because going back to my teens, coming into Cardiff for the first time, going around the shops where there was probably 40, 50 independent shops when there's only
that's the sad thing about Amazon and the internet phenomena. And the way we shop, it's to the expense of the independence.
Yeah, of course.
And the independence was so important, especially to Cardiff in the 70s and 80s, 90s. Robert Barker, Woody's, Pavilion,
Floyd Chessman,
Skin Shop, even.
Like on a Saturday morning, you could come into town, you could go up to Castle Arcade, High Street Arcade area, and there'd be kids our age everywhere. Football lads, b-boys, punks, it was just
it was a really, the 90s, off the back of the house music culture. People were setting up, clothes shops, record shops, and the place was popping. It really was.
There must have been about, 5 to 10 record shops, wasn't it? Independents in Cardiff Town.
Well, yeah, it was a lot.
Well, you worked in one, didn't you?
I worked in one. Yeah, it was Catapult, Whoosh. There was lots happening. And then Droogie came along. That was a great shop. Really good shop.
That was a crowd.
I think you got to be careful, because they were ahead of the curve.
Yeah, they were.
Too far ahead. You can be too far ahead, and then
they were bringing labels into Cardiff and South Wales where they didn't really catch on till a bit later, wasn't it?
No, it was later. But, unfortunately, it was too late for them.
Does that, do you feel, amplify really how important now the independent brands that are still surviving or still even starting?
I think it's lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely to see. The kids are having a go and they're doing it, and you can only create a scene by going out and doing it. By, like yourselves, creating something which is so important, not just for yourselves but for the community. And geography doesn't stop at Bristol. Is what everything seems to stop at Bristol at the moment. And no, come on, let's get the music scene back up. It's clothes. Important.
What Johan's doing with Cambrensis and Jacob with Nights Vintage. It's a tough game, but they're having a go.
And it's important.
It's important to have a go as well. Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, it's up to the local people to support it, not just go to End Clothing and buy, constantly from the big boys. Support your independent clothes shop. Morgan's Menswear as well, and ladies wear, Bogana. Great shop, brilliant shop.
Yeah, that's what keeps it niche. That's what keeps it unique, and long may it continue.
Just to touch on your collaboration with Cambrensis, of course, with the Italian Welsh heritage brand. Do you know what? How important has that been for you, and to be a part of that?
Oh, big time, yeah. It's been exciting for months how we've produced the product, but it was great becoming a collab with from our book, from the perspective of Italy, and what me and Johan know about the history of Italian Welsh heritage, which it was obviously big time prevalent in Cardiff and the valleys, and we've had some really nice responses so far, but online, and we got months of hard work ahead of us.
Yeah, of course.
But we're going to do it.
And how has the process been so far?
Good.
You in that
Yeah.
sense?
We've been busy. Like last week, we went to the Westminster Archives, which was a rare treat. Professor Andrew Groves from
Amazing.
University of Westminster. He's been a massive friend of the book since we published. So yeah, it was nice. I met him a few times, and it was nice for him to show us around. There was like 3,000 garments there. We could have spent days there, but we unfortunately we only had a couple of hours. But
I imagine you could have as well, Dave, couldn't you?
You get me on music, football or clobber, and that's it. I'll talk a glass eye to sleep.
Yeah, there were so many exciting products there, and with all the backstory, like there was some original Burberry stuff from, I don't know, the 1800s or so, wherever you go back.
I bought my first Burberry Mac off my mother's Cage catalogue. Honestly, they used to do Burberry on Cage catalogue.
£1 a week?
It was something like that, and my mother ended up having to pay for it. I said, I'll pay the payments. But
yeah, the best they were.
But yeah, so
those catalogues, going back to fashion, early mid-80s catalogues, they're the best Adidas.
Well, it was
600s, 500s.
I think it kind of went back, certainly for myself, football kits started it by having football kits and having the one which no one else had.
Yeah.
It was like Admiral, for me, it was Admiral football kits in the 1970s, like, oh God, and then you had to have the rare away kit, some nondescript Italian
B team,
and
we were lucky then, because apart from the catalogues, there was a lot of independent sports shops, wasn't it?
Oh,
in every town.
Yeah.
So
it was a big part of it.
It was. We were fortunate.
It was
fortunate.
Yeah.
To conclude, then, lads, how do you feel about the culture today and the scene today? I know we touched on it, but is it exciting times? Is it almost a new era now, a new age that we go into? Or a different
Definitely a new
culture
age. It's. I feel for me now, I'm 60 now. I'm kind of like, I know where I am in regard to what I want to wear, etc. I'm not chasing trends anymore. I'm going for the classic styles. I think it's like, for me, time to hand the baton down. But I know what I want. But it's time. It's up to your generation now to like, right? Well, you hit us. You come to me and say, right, here, Grandad, wear this. Have a look at this. What do you think? And that's so important. But it enthuses me that your brand and loads of local brands are breaking through again. Like it was in the early 90s with the rave scene. There was lots of independence came through from that era. Patrick Cox and Michiko Casino and all those brands, wasn't there?
There's a lot of
John Richmond.
There's a lot of good independence online, and they try their heart out, like Johan. But Johan, he's hit the ground running, and adding little touches like Welsh heritage, and it's all and the professional work that he's done.
Attention to detail.
Yeah, and he's got a great team with him, and he's in a good position, and I'm glad to be involved.
Fantastic.
Attention to detail with everything you do.
Yeah, it's important.
And
Just
that
seems
is
lost that almost.
Same with the music. I do everything we do with the music. Everything's got to be spot on.
100%. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Dave, thank you, Tony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you guys. Absolute pleasure. So that's been the end of our first episode of From Collieries to Couture. Thank you very much for watching, and sign up to our Cambrensis community newsletter for more news and updates. I've been Brandon Richards. Thank you once again.